I never thought my own son would steal from me, but that cold December morning, when Michael's call woke me at 6 a.m., I learned just how wrong a mother could be about her child. "Mom, I've sold the restaurant. We're closing tomorrow." His voice was casual, almost cheerful, like he was telling me about a nice day at the park. I sat up in bed, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What? Michael, what are you talking about?" "David's Kitchen. I found a buyer. Great offer, actually. The papers are signed. We hand over the keys tomorrow afternoon." My hands started shaking. David's Kitchen. The restaurant my late husband and I had built from nothing 32 years ago. The place where David had died just 14 months earlier, collapsing in the kitchen while preparing his famous ciopino. "You can't sell it, Michael. It's not yours to sell." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Mom, come on. You gave me power of attorney to handle the business, remember? You said it was too painful to go there after Dad died. I've been managing everything." "Managing? Yes. Not selling. Look, the building's worth a fortune now. Downtown Portland real estate is booming. This developer is offering $2.3 million. Your share after paying off the business loans will be around $800,000. That's enough for a comfortable retirement." "My share? My share of my own restaurant?" "Michael, we need to talk about this in person. Don't do anything until—" "It's already done, Mom. I'm sorry, but I had to move fast. The buyer wanted an answer within 24 hours. I'm actually calling you from outside the restaurant right now. The new owners are doing a walkthrough." I could hear traffic in the background, the familiar sounds of Morrison Street during morning rush hour. He really was there, at my restaurant, with strangers. "I'm coming down there right now." "Mom, there's no point. Like I said, the papers are signed. Look, I know you're upset, but you'll thank me later. That place was bleeding money. I saved you from bankruptcy." Bleeding money? David's Kitchen had been profitable for 29 straight years. Even after David died, even with my grief making it impossible for me to set foot inside, our manager Carmen had kept things running smoothly. I saw the books every month. "Michael, I want to see those papers. Today." He sighed, the long-suffering sigh of an adult dealing with a difficult child. "Fine, I'll drop copies by your apartment this evening. But Mom, you need to accept this. The deal is done. Oh, and the developer wants the building empty by January 2nd, so you'll need to clear out Dad's office. All his stuff, his recipes, everything. I don't have time to deal with it." He hung up before I could respond. I sat there in my small bedroom, surrounded by the walls of the apartment I'd moved into after David's death. I couldn't bear to stay in our house, couldn't walk past the kitchen where he used to make me coffee every morning, couldn't sleep in the bed we'd shared for 38 years. So I'd sold the house and moved into this sterile one-bedroom, thinking I just needed time to heal. And I'd let Michael take over the restaurant because he was right. It was too painful. Every pot, every pan, every dish reminded me of David, the man who'd held my hand through culinary school when we were both 23 and broke. The man who'd worked 3 jobs so we could scrape together enough money for a down payment on that little storefront on Morrison Street. The man who'd made me laugh every single day for 38 years until his heart gave out while he was doing what he loved most. I'd trusted Michael to preserve his father's legacy. Instead, he'd sold it. I got dressed mechanically, my mind racing. Something wasn't right. Michael had always been a little entitled, a little too focused on money, but this was different. This was cruel. And that comment about the restaurant losing money, that was a lie. I knew it was a lie. I called Carmen, our restaurant manager. "Linda, how are you, honey?" Carmen's warm voice usually comforted me, but today I needed answers more than comfort. "Carmen, is the restaurant in financial trouble?" Silence. Then, carefully, "Where did you hear that?" "Michael told me he sold it because we were going bankrupt." That son of a Carmen caught herself. "Linda, I need to see you. Can you come to the restaurant?" "Michael said there are new owners doing a walkthrough. There's nobody here but me. I open in an hour. Come now." 20 minutes later, I walked through the front door of David's Kitchen for the first time in 14 months. The smell hit me immediately. Garlic, basil, tomatoes, the sea salt air that David used to say was the secret ingredient in his ciopino. I had to grip the hostess stand to keep from crying. Carmen came out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She was 61, just a year younger than me, and she'd been with us since we opened. She took one look at my face and wrapped me in a hug. "Come on, coffee first, then we talk." We sat in the small back office, David's office, surrounded by his things. His chef's coat still hung on the hook by the door. His handwritten recipe cards were pinned to the corkboard. His reading glasses sat on the desk, exactly where he'd left them that last morning. Carmen pushed a mug of coffee toward me and pulled out a folder. "I've been keeping duplicates of everything since June. I had a feeling something wasn't right." "What do you mean?" Michael started asking weird questions in June. About property values, about whether we owned the building outright, about what would happen if we wanted to sell. I told him the building was paid off, yes, but that you and David had set up a special arrangement in your will. My stomach dropped. The will. David's will. "Carmen, I haven't been able to look at David's papers. Everything's still in boxes at my apartment. What arrangement?" "Honey, David was very clear with me about this. He made me promise that if anything happened to him, I'd make sure you understood. The restaurant was put in a trust 3 years ago. Do you remember signing those papers?" I did, vaguely. David had been so insistent, had taken me to his lawyer's office. "It's just to protect everything," he'd said. "So if something happens to one of us, the other one is taken care of, and so Michael can't make any stupid decisions." Those were his exact words. "So Michael can't make any stupid decisions." "David knew," I whispered. "He knew Michael would do something like this." Carmen nodded. "The trust says the restaurant stays in your name until your death. Only then does it pass to Michael. But even if you wanted to sell it while you're alive, you'd need approval from the trustee." "Who's the trustee?" "David's lawyer, Sarah Chen." I'd met Sarah a few times over the years. She was sharp, thorough, and she'd loved David like a brother. She'd been at his funeral, had hugged me and told me to call her if I needed anything. "Carmen, if the restaurant is in a trust that Michael can't touch, how did he sell it?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out. 3 months ago, Michael came in with what he said were new management contracts for me to sign. I read them carefully, like I always do. They seemed normal, just updating some language about duties and payment, but honey, I think there were other papers in that stack. Papers I didn't see." "Forgery," I said. "My own son had forged my signature." "I think so. And Linda, there's something else. Michael's been taking money from the restaurant accounts. Not huge amounts, nothing that would trigger alerts, but over the past year he's siphoned off about $90,000. I felt sick. Does he have a key to the accounts? You authorized him as a signer back when David died. You said he might need to handle bills while you were grieving. I had said that. I'd been so destroyed by David's death, so lost, that I'd just signed whatever Michael put in front of me. I need to see Sarah Chen. Today." Carmen pulled out her phone. "I already called her. She has an opening at 10. She's expecting you." Sarah Chen's office was in a sleek building downtown, all glass and steel, but her actual office was warm, filled with plants and family photos. She stood when I entered, came around her desk, and took both my hands. "Linda, I'm so sorry about what's happening. Carmen called me this morning and told me everything." "Sarah, did Michael really sell the restaurant?" She gestured for me to sit. "Let's start from the beginning. The trust that David set up is ironclad. You are the sole beneficiary during your lifetime. The restaurant cannot be sold without your explicit notarized consent and my approval as trustee. Do you remember signing any sale documents?" "No. Never." "That's what I thought." She pulled out a file. "Yesterday afternoon, a man from Pinnacle Development Group called me. He was very excited about his company's new acquisition, David's Kitchen. He wanted to know about permits and heritage designations." "Héritage designation?" Sarah smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "That building you're in, Linda, it's in the Morrison Street Heritage District. It was designated 3 years ago. Any major renovation or demolition requires city council approval. It's a lengthy process." I didn't know that. David did. He made sure the trust documents referenced it specifically. He wanted to protect the restaurant from exactly what Michael is trying to do. These developers think they're buying a prime downtown location they can tear down and replace with condos. They have no idea they're looking at 2 years of bureaucratic red tape minimum. So the sale can't go through? The sale was never valid in the first place. I called Pinnacle back and informed them that the seller had no legal authority to sell the property. They're furious. Apparently, they gave Michael a $200,000 deposit. $200,000. That's why he needed to move fast. That's why he'd been stealing from the restaurant accounts. He was in debt, desperate, and he'd seen the restaurant as his way out. Sarah, what do I do? She leaned forward. We stop this. Today. I'm filing an emergency injunction to block the sale. I'm also reporting the forged documents to the police. Linda, your son committed fraud. He forged your signature on legal documents, he misrepresented his authority, and he accepted money for property he had no right to sell. He's my son. I know. And this is your decision. But David trusted me to protect you and his legacy. That's what I'm going to do. I thought about David. About the nights we'd stayed up late in that tiny kitchen, perfecting recipes. About the day we opened, serving just 8 customers. About the year Michael was born, and David had painted the whole restaurant by himself so we could save money for baby furniture. About last Christmas, the last Christmas, when David had insisted on cooking dinner at the restaurant so we could serve free meals to anyone who came in. It's what we do, Linda, he'd said. We feed people. We make them feel like family. Michael had wanted to skip that dinner, said it was bad for business, giving away food. David had just shaken his head and told him, some things matter more than profit, son. Michael had never understood that, and now he'd sold his father's dream for $2.3 million. Do it, I told Sarah. File everything. I want my restaurant back. Michael showed up at my apartment that evening, just like he'd promised. He had a folder of papers and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Hey, Mom, here are the sale documents. Like I said, all signed and sealed. He handed me the folder. I flipped through it slowly. There was my signature, or at least a very good copy of it, on multiple pages. The sale was to Pinnacle Development Group. Closing date, January 15th. Michael, sit down, we need to talk. Mom, I really can't stay. Ashley's waiting in the car. Ashley, his wife of 2 years. A woman I'd met exactly 3 times, who looked at our family restaurant like it was a burden she couldn't wait to be rid of. Michael, sit down. Something in my voice made him comply. He sat on the edge of my couch, nervous now. Did you forge my signature on these papers? His face went pale, then red. I don't know what you're talking about. I went to see Sarah Chen today. You remember Sarah? Dad's lawyer? The trustee of the restaurant? So she explained to me that you have no legal authority to sell David's kitchen. The restaurant is in a trust you can't touch until I'm dead. He stood up fast. That's not fair. Dad promised me that restaurant would be mine someday. I've been working for it my whole life. You've worked there exactly 14 months, Michael. And in those 14 months, you stole $90,000 from the business accounts. I didn't steal anything. I was taking a salary for managing the place. You were taking a salary and siphoning money from the accounts. Carmen showed me the records. He was pacing now, panicking. You're going to believe that old woman over your own son? Carmen has been loyal to this family for 32 years. What have you been, Michael? I've been trying to save you. That restaurant is a money pit. The building is old, the equipment is ancient, the whole business model is outdated. The restaurant is profitable and has been for almost 3 decades. It could be more profitable. That location is worth millions. We could sell it, invest the money, set you up in a nice retirement home. I'm 62 years old, Michael, not 90. I don't need a retirement home. You need someone to take care of you. You've been depressed since Dad died. You can barely function. I've been grieving. There's a difference. He stopped pacing and looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment he realized he'd lost. What are you going to do? Sarah's already filed an injunction blocking the sale. She's also contacted the police about the forged documents. You're having me arrested? I'm having you face the consequences of your actions. I'm your son. And David was your father. But that didn't stop you from selling his dream for cash, did it? Michael's face twisted. His dream. It was always his dream. His restaurant. His legacy. What about me? What about what I wanted? What did you want, Michael? I wanted not to spend my whole life in his shadow. I wanted not to have every single person in Portland tell me how lucky I was to be David Chen's son. I wanted to be my own person. So you decided to destroy what he built? I decided to cash out of something I never asked to be part of. Then you should have said that. You should have walked away. You shouldn't have lied, stolen, and committed fraud. He grabbed his coat. Fine. Call the police. Send your own son to jail. But don't come crying to me when you're old and alone with nobody to take care of you. Michael. I stopped him at the door. Your father left you something. It's in the trust. When I die, you get the restaurant, yes. But he also set aside money for you. $250,000. For your future, he said. For when you were ready to build something of your own instead of tearing down what someone else built. Michael stared at me. He left me money? He loved you. Even knowing who you were, knowing your flaws, he still loved you and wanted you to succeed. But he also knew you weren't ready for David's kitchen. Not yet. Maybe not ever. My son left without another word. I heard his car start, heard him drive away, and then I was alone in my small apartment, holding the folder of forged documents, crying for the family we'd been, and the family we'd never be again. The next morning, Sarah called. Pinnacle's lawyers contacted me. They're withdrawing from the sale and demanding their deposit back from Michael. They're also considering fraud charges. What happens now? The restaurant is legally yours, Linda. It always was. The question is, what do you want to do with it? I thought about David, about Carmen, who'd stayed loyal through everything, about the regular customers who'd been coming for decades, about the line cooks and waiters and dishwashers who depended on David's kitchen for their livelihoods. I want to reopen it, I said, not as a manager from afar. I want to go back. Are you sure? After everything? David died doing what he loved, in the place we built together. I've been hiding from that, hiding from the memories. But they're not all painful, Sarah. Most of them are beautiful. 2 weeks later, on a cold morning 3 days before Christmas, I unlocked the front door of David's kitchen for the first time as the owner, not the owner's widow. Carmen was already there, prepping in the kitchen. "Morning, boss," she said with a smile. "Don't call me boss, call me Linda. You're the boss now, whether you like it or not." I put on one of David's chef coats. It smelled like him still, like herbs and smoke and the cologne he'd worn every day of our marriage. I rolled up the sleeves and walked into the kitchen. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. The big gas stove he'd insisted on buying even though it cost a fortune. The knife rack he'd made from reclaimed wood. The chalkboard where he'd written the daily specials in his terrible handwriting. Today's special, written in Carmen's neat script, Ciopino, David's recipe. "I thought we could serve it tonight," Carmen said quietly. "Christmas is in 3 days. We could do what David did last year. Open the doors. Feed anyone who comes in. Free meal?" "Free meal." I nodded, not trusting my voice. We cooked together that day, Carmen and I and the whole staff. We made David's Ciopino, his famous garlic bread, his Christmas salad with pomegranate and pecans. We made enough food for 200 people, and they came. The regular customers who'd been coming for years, the neighbors who remembered David, the homeless people from downtown who'd heard about the free meal, the new residents who'd just moved to Portland and wanted to try the famous David's Kitchen. We served food until 9 p.m. We ran out of Ciopino twice and had to make more. We ran out of bread and Carmen made an emergency run to the bakery down the street. We ran out of plates and started serving on takeout containers. It was chaos. It was exhausting. It was exactly what David would have wanted. At the end of the night, I sat in his office, surrounded by his things, and I finally looked through the boxes I'd been avoiding for 14 months, his recipe cards, his photos, his letters. And I found the letter he'd left for me. It was dated 3 years ago, the day we'd signed the trust documents. "My dearest Linda," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. And knowing you, you're probably sitting in a dark apartment somewhere, hiding from the world, thinking your life is over. Well, I'm here to tell you that's nonsense." I laughed through my tears. So bossy, even from beyond the grave. "The restaurant is yours now," the letter continued. "Not Michael's, not anyone else's. Yours, because you built it as much as I did. Those recipes we perfected together. Those customers we welcomed like family. Those late nights when we were too tired to stand but too excited about our dream to go home. That was us, Linda. Both of us. The restaurant is our love story, written in food and laughter and hard work. Don't let anyone take that from you. Not even our son. Especially not our son. I love Michael, but I know his weaknesses. I know he sees dollar signs where I see legacy. So I'm protecting us. I'm protecting our story. The restaurant is yours as long as you live. And when you're ready, when you're healed, I want you to go back. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Go back and cook. Go back and feed people. Go back and remember that we were happy there, that we built something that mattered. I love you, Linda. I'll always love you. And I'll be waiting for you in that kitchen, watching you work, proud of everything you do. You're David. I sat there for a long time, holding that letter. Then I pinned it to the corkboard, right next to his recipe for Ciopino. Michael was arrested 2 days after Christmas. The charges were fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. Ashley left him before his arraignment. He called me once from jail, asking me to bail him out. I said no. Sarah said I was doing the right thing. Carmen said David would be proud. I wasn't sure about either of those things. I just knew that some lessons had to be learned the hard way. The trial was in March. Michael pled guilty to reduced charges and got 2 years probation, community service, and had to repay the $90,000 he'd stolen. Pinnacle Development dropped their case after he returned their deposit. I didn't go to the sentencing. I was at the restaurant doing what David had taught me to do. I was cooking. I was feeding people. I was building a legacy that wasn't about money or property values, but about community and love and the simple act of sharing a meal. Michael called me once after the trial. He said he was sorry. He said he understood now what Dad had been trying to teach him. He said maybe someday he could earn back my trust. I told him I loved him. I told him the door was always open. But I didn't invite him to the restaurant. Some bridges take longer to rebuild than others. It's been almost a year now since that cold December morning when Michael called to tell me he'd sold David's kitchen. The restaurant is thriving. We've hired 2 new cooks and expanded our menu. Carmen's son manages the front of house now, and he's just as good as his mother. I work the kitchen 4 nights a week. I make David Ciopino every Friday. And sometimes, late at night when the restaurant is empty and I'm doing prep for the next day, I swear I can feel him there. Not haunting me, but standing beside me, his hand on my shoulder, watching me work. You did good, Linda, he seems to say. You fought for us. You won. And I did. Not against Michael, really. Against grief. Against fear. Against the idea that when you lose someone, you have to lose everything they meant to you. David's kitchen is still here. Our story is still here. And I'm still here, cooking his recipes, feeding his community, living the dream we built together. Michael's $250,000 is still waiting for him, untouched. Maybe someday he'll be ready to build something of his own. Maybe someday he'll understand that the best legacies aren't the ones you inherit, but the ones you create. But that's his story to write. Mine is here, in this kitchen, with these people making these meals. Mine is choosing to walk back into the place where my heart broke and letting it teach me how to heal. Mine is understanding that love doesn't die when people do. It transforms. It becomes the food we cook, the customers we serve, the community we build. It becomes the legacy we leave behind.